If we can please start with a prayer. Dear God, if left to my own devices, my perception will be skewed. I surrender to you everything I think and feel. Please take my past, plan my future, send your spirit to redeem my mind that I might be set free. May I be your channel, God. May I serve your world. Thank you, God, for my many blessings. It's actually not your world, it's the world, because this is certainly not God's world. Okay, so please enable me to set aside everything I think I know about A Course in Miracles, about you, about others, about myself. And please, God, help me to have an open mind for a new experience about you, A Course in Miracles, others, and myself. I love you. Thank you, God. Thank you for joining with me. We are on day 15. I do not have the commentary, so we will just read Chapter 1, Miracle Principle number 35. That's day 15. We are reading from A Course in Miracles, the Purple Book, based on the original handwritten notes of Helen Schuckman, complete and annotated edition by the Circle of Atonement, edited by Robert Perry. 35. Miracles are the way in which minds that serve the Spirit unite with Christ for the salvation or release of all God's creations. There are certain advantages in being a psychologist. A major one is the understanding of projection and the extent of its results. Possession is very closely related to projection. Lucifer could literally be translated light bearer. Footnote 61. Lucifer is a Latin word for light bearer. It referred to Venus, the morning star, whose appearance at dawn heralded the coming of daylight. The connection between psychological projection and Lucifer projecting himself from heaven seems to be that in projection we try to hurl the Lucifer in our own minds outward in order to retain the feeling that our minds are still innocent, still of heaven. He literally projected himself from heaven. Projection still has this hurling connotation because it involves hurling something you do not want and regard as dangerous and frightening to someone else. This is the opposite of the golden rule. And having placed this rule upside down, the reverse of miracles or projection follows automatically. Matthew 7:12. So whatever you wish that men would do to you, do so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Hurling something you do not want to someone else, which is what projection does, is the opposite of the golden rule, because it means giving to others what you do not want given to you. And the golden rule, of course, is do unto others as you would have done to you. The correction lies in accepting what is true in yourself by bringing all that you are into light. One of the major problems with miracle workers is that they are so sure that what they are doing is right because they know it stems from love that they frequently do not pause to let me establish my limits. While what they do comes from me, they often cannot be induced to ask me each time whether I want them to perform this particular miracle. If they did, they would not perform any miracles that could not get through constructively and would thus save themselves unnecessary strain. Instead, some burn themselves out with indiscriminate miracles, and to this extent do not fulfill their own purpose. They do not fulfill their own full purpose. The answer is never to perform a miracle without asking me if you should. This spares you from exhaustion. Just because miracles are expressions of love, it does not follow that they will always be effective. I am the only one who can perform miracles indiscriminately because I am the atonement. You have a role in the atonement which I will dictate to you. Remember, you already have a principle about the involuntary nature of miracles, 63. And that's in text 141. Miracles are habits and should be involuntary. We have also established the fact that everything involuntary belongs under Christ's control, not yours, 64. Your abilities will be very useful when they come under involuntary control rather than involuntary lack of control. Following the right involuntary guide will enable you to recognize both physical and spiritual dangers and will provide the means for avoiding each of them in the most efficient way. Therefore, when you say, "If you want me to, I will," please add, "And if you don't want me to, I won't." This is the right use of inhibition. There has to be some control over learning for channelizing purposes. Under Christ's control, miracles replenish the doer as well as the receiver. Miracle workers must learn Christ's control to replace their former habits, which did produce scarcity in place of abundance. From errors of this kind, the sense of deprivation is inevitable, but very easily corrected. Possession really means not under Christ's control, thus making the mind vulnerable to projection. The idea of earthbound entities entering into bodies really refers to being taken over by your own earthbound thoughts. This is demon possession. After all, Lucifer fell, but he was still an angel. He is thus the symbol for humanity. Atonement is the knowledge that the belief that angels can fall is false. It is true that mind can make projections as well as miracles, but it is not true that projections are real. 65. The particular projection referred to here is projecting oneself from heaven, as Lucifer did. That projection, in other words, was no more real than any other psychological projection. And if you'll just bear with me, I have to fix my... All right, so... Any psychologist should understand this. This is what is meant by "the truth shall set you free." 66. John 8:32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. You need to understand the very important difference between Christ's control and Christ's guidance. Christ-controlled miracles are part of the atonement. But the Christ guidance is personal and leads to personal salvation. The impersonal nature of miracles is an essential ingredient because this enables me to control their distribution as I see fit. 67. As mentioned earlier, impersonal means that miracles are not given to people because of attributes that are personal to them, but because of what is universal in them. Christ's guidance, on the other hand, leads to the highly personal experience of revelation. This is why it involves personal choice. A guide does not control by definition, but he does direct, leaving the following up to you. Lead us not in temptation, 68, Matthew 6:13 and Luke 11:4. Where was I? Lead us not into temptation means guide us out of our own errors. Note that the word is lead, not order. Take up thy cross and follow me should be interpreted to mean recognize your errors and choose to abandon them by following my guidance. 69. Matthew 16:24. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Come, take up the cross and follow me. In the above interpretation, your cross is your own errors rather than a burden imposed on you by God. Taking up your cross thus means picking up your errors and looking at them. Having recognized them for what they are, you then follow Jesus' guidance and discard them, rather than carrying them as a permanent burden. When you are afraid of possession, you need only remember that error cannot really threaten truth, which always can withstand its assaults. Only the error is really vulnerable. The princes of this world are princes only because they are really angels. 70. The princes of the world is a biblical term often taken as referring to the demons who supposedly rule this world and who crucified the Lord of glory. See 1 Corinthians 2:6-8. Jesus' point here is that these demons are really angels, since angels cannot truly fall, and therefore need not be feared. But they are free to establish their kingdom where they see fit. If you will remember that all princes inherit their power from the Father, the right choice becomes inevitable. Spirit is in the state of grace forever. Your reality is only your spirit. Therefore, you are in the state of grace forever. Atonement undoes all errors, and in this respect, Atonement undoes all errors, and in this respect, and thus uproots the real source of fear. 71. In other words, the prospect of being possessed by demons is not the real source of fear. Rather, as the following sentence implies, our real underlying fear seems to be that the pull of the Spirit will uproot our separate identity. As chapter 2 says, underneath our fear of possession by demons is our real fear of being possessed by, or wholly belonging to, God. Fear of possession is a perverted expression of the fear of the irresistible attraction of God. If you will check back at the reference to uprooting, you will understand it better in this context. 72. It is more of a reaction formation against a pull which you recognize is so intense that you are afraid. You think you'll be uprooted. Whenever God's reassurances are experienced as threat, it is always because you are defending your misplaced and misdirected love and loyalty. That is what projection always involves. Casting spells merely means affirming error, and error is lack of love. When a person projects this lovelessness onto others, he does imprison them, but only to the extent that he reinforces errors they have already made. These distortions make them vulnerable to the curse of others, since they have already cursed themselves. The miracle worker can only bless them, and this undoes the curse and frees the soul from prison. And see Camia Waite, the mother of children, and that's our reading for tomorrow. Thank you for joining with me, you miracle worker. We just read Miracle Principle 35. Miracles are the way in which the minds that serve the Spirit unite with Christ for the salvation or release of all God's creations. I love you. Thank you.